ECOWAS leaders resolve to close borders with Mali, impose economic sanctions on the country. Securities and Exchange Commission plans revise 10-year master plan. Stockbrokers back regulators' charges on fixed income securities. Oil prices edge up on Kazakhstan. Libyan's supply worries, plus issues that will shape aviation industry in 2022. This is Business Express, and we are reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Musa Abubakar. Well, it's good to have you join us. Let's bring you up to speed with business development. ECOWAS leaders have resolved to close borders with Mali and as well as impose economic sanctions on the country. This is in response to the tactics of the military authorities who had toppled democratically elected government to delay elections earlier, scheduled for the 27th of February this year. The Malian Transitional Authorities is proposing to hold the elections in December 2025 instead of the agreed date. But after hours of deliberations by the ECOWAS leaders at an extraordinary summit in Accra, Ghana, the leaders found the proposed timetable for the transition unacceptable. In a communique, members agreed to impose more sanctions, which includes the closure of land and air borders with Mali, freezing of Malian state assets in ECOWAS central and commercial banks, and the suspension of non-essential financial transactions. These are to take immediate effect. Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) has announced plans to launch a revised version of the 10-year capital market master plan in 2022 to reflect the dynamism of the market and developments in fintech, among others. This is as stockbrokers express support for the introduction of regulatory charges on fixed income securities by the regulator. Speaking on the revised master plan, SEC Director General Lamido Yuguda in a statement said, as the year 2022 commences, the Commission is confident that the results of the various initiatives implemented will begin to gradually manifest, spurring developments in many aspects of the market. He expressed the hope that as the restrictions of COVID-19 and its variants are eased up, the market will witness renewed confidence expected to introduce fresh investments from domestic and foreign investors. He said some of the key initiatives to be pursued in 2022 are the repeal of the Investment and Securities Act 2007 and passing of the Investment and Securities Bill 2021 to align the enabling law with the realities and trends in capital market regulation and practice in Nigeria. Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment Adeni Adebayo on Monday assured manufacturers of government support to enable them get good returns on their investment. In a statement by the Special Assistant to the Minister on Media, Ifedayo Sayo, the minister said amid shortage of foreign exchange, the federal government was doing everything to assist manufacturers to access forex, particularly for the importation of machineries for those using local raw materials for their production. He maintained that the ministry will continue to assist manufacturers to remove any identified bottleneck that could impede their production process, especially with respect to ease of doing business. Now, experts in the field of engineering have called for increased application of science, technology and innovation towards finding homegrown solutions to everyday problems across all sectors of the economy.
The pull is there, but without innovation, there can be difference. Innovation is what takes it forward.
So that some of our engineers, local engineers here, can begin to appreciate and understand the new phase of engineering, which is actually having powered machines, but mobile power machines. So this is actually one of the areas that this book actually contributes.
The textbook is also domesticated in such a way that it can be easily read in the contextual language that our student can easily understand.
The student building machines, building efficient machines, prototype machines, testing them out and see how, how better they can be now compared to the huge machines that you normally find in labs, to try and make machines more efficient whilst they dissipate less amount of heat.
Despite the challenging nature of the aviation industry in 2021, Nigeria was able to make a mark by breaking the jinx of stagnation occasioned by COVID-19 pandemic. While a lot of airlines were shutting down, favorable policies to attract new entrants as well as acquisition of brand new aircrafts in the face of global uncertainty of the industry were put in place. Fasten your belts, has aviation correspondent Emmanuel Ayimero takes us on a flight 2021.
Losses, shutting down of the airwaves and poor recovery characterized the aviation industry worldwide in 2021 due to the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. Despite the uncertainty in the industry, Nigeria woke up to a new dawn of progress from the beginning of the year by encouraging more investment in the industry, with the Central Bank of Nigeria and other financial institutions facilitating the acquisition of brand new cargo airline, with the Allied Cargo increasing her fleets.
The Nigerian aviation industry is opening up, more and more investments are happening. We need more and more investment in the area of aviation, and I can assure us that the Central Bank of Nigeria is ready, Nigerian banks are ready.
This new development was also followed by Air Peace acquiring more fleets, 5 out of 13 delivered so far.
We have been told by the MD of the airline that not less than 8,000 people will be gainfully employed. This is a major achievement.
2 years ago, the International Civil Aviation Organization (ICAO) recognized Nigeria in solving aviation security and oversight deficiencies, sustaining the rating and maintaining safety and security in the nation's airports. An approval of 9.5 billion naira was secured for the procurement of 8 airport rescue and firefighting vehicles, as well as 658 million naira for deployment of sniffer dogs.
Now these dogs, they would be doing, among other things, detection of bomb, detection of drugs, currency, prohibited items, explosives.
One reform that appeared controversial in the year under review is the planned concession of 4 international airports for optimum performance.
Concessioning of our airport is very necessary now. That is a global practice. Government has very little or no business in airport management.
Year 2022 is set for Nigeria's dream of floating a national air carrier, as hinted by Aviation Minister.
There's no control whatsoever management of the airline by the government. They only own 5%. To have a government skin in that project, to boost investor confidence and to be sure that this is here to stay, and also to have that sovereign color and sovereign support and sovereign shoulder to lean upon, and also to fulfill the requirements of international operations. The aircraft will be wet leased and operations will begin.
The year also witnessed installations of new processing and self-kiosks to enhance check-in at the airports.
When we are using manually, there was a lot of kiosks. Now, after we start using RESA, there is not too much kiosks, as you have seen, so the system is efficient.
Out of the 12 number international flights that we operate here, 10 have already queued into the new system.
Some airlines are not really back operating into Nigeria, you understand. So as they are coming, we keep uploading their system. But right now, almost all the big ones are on board.
Also, air accident reporting is now digital compared to the bulky pages that have to be flipped through before obtaining information. This, the Nigeria's Accident Investigation Bureau says, makes understanding of air accident reports simpler. Emmanuel Ayemiro.
Thank you, Emmanuel Ayemiro. Yeah, 2021 was so challenging for the aviation industry that struggled to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic and begin a new year on a sound footing. And to do so, the industry will have to contend with issues like the concession of 4 major international airports, the establishment of a national carrier that is expected to commence operation this year, as well as the setting up of a leasing company and a maintenance, repair and overhaul facility to help curtail capital flight. Is the leasing process for domestic airlines improve aircraft maintenance turnaround time and generally develop the sector, among others. Well, joining me, it's the CEO of Topaz Travels and Tours, and as well as President National Association of Travel Agencies, Susan Akporiaye.
Good afternoon. Yes.
Yeah, welcome to Business Express. Well, I hope I got that right.
Yes, you did.
Well, first of all, let's look at the aviation sector. How would you describe the performance of the sector in 2021, and what's the prospect in the 2022?
Well, like you said, the aviation sector was badly hit, and is the worst hit by the COVID pandemic. So it's expected that its operation and how we fared, there will still be a lot of challenge that we had to cope with. But looking at it in the bigger picture, I think aviation sector in Nigeria, 2021, did well. Compared to maybe some other sector and some other countries, we did well.
But when you consider COVID-19?
Oh yes, because it's what we experienced in 2021. We didn't expect to even have half of that happen because of the COVID. That's why I said we did well considering COVID of 2020 that shut down everywhere. Because what happened, of course, the bailout by the federal government that was executed by our minister. What's a good start for us in 2021, even though the chunk of that bailout is still awaiting, which I trust that it will eventually come. That was a very good one. Then, of course, NCAA, constant engagement of all parties in the industry, kept us abreast of what was going on. I mean, kept us aware of the areas we needed to adjust. And if you look at it overall, there was a lot of encouragement. The government had some waivers of import duties for commercial airlines. So it's made them have a lot of good spare cash to go into investment. Hence the reason why you saw there were a lot of new aircraft, more modern aircraft coming in by commercial airlines in Nigeria, and new airlines also coming up. So it shows we did pretty better than what was expected. And if you come to figures, in 2021, we realized about 142, according to data, 142 billion as against the previous year of 114. So the industry is recovering well, actually, better than expected. And that's, I believe, is because aviation has to do with movement. People will have to move. COVID-19, of course, restricted that. But in the long run, human beings are not meant.
But again, it's making travels more expensive because if I travel now, I need to test for COVID.
Oh yes.
Once I get to you understand?
Yeah, that's one of the challenges that we faced in 2021, and even in the midst of that, we still was able to. The industry was still able to perform the way it performed. There are so many factors to that. One, you had mentioned earlier in your news, the Forex challenge. I mean, we all know the aviation industry depends so much on this because internationally it's domiciled in dollars. So it was also a major challenge that led to the increase of risk. Then, of course, the facilities of the airport, they were not enough. New airlines have come on board. It was not enough. And of course, the festive season rush, the insecurity of roads. So people embrace air travel more. So those are the challenges that face the sector. And in the midst of that, we did, the figures are showing it. I think we did fairly okay.
Okay, tourism thrives with aviation. How did we fare in the midst of COVID-19?
Oh, tourism, that is one aspect that we're still in prayer. I mean, it has not really been paid much attention to. But I'm happy that the very first stage of tourism, which is aviation, because for tourism to happen, there has to be movement. So the government is putting a lot and has concentrated on that aspect that is required for tourism. So my appeal, but nothing really has been done about tourism. It's just all been 100% the private sector. And we all know the private sector can't do this alone. But you know why the private sector, in the midst of the negligence of the tourism industry for us, as against our counterparts in other African countries, let's not even go to the Western world, African countries like ours, in which Nigeria is the giant of Africa. So I have to use African countries. Compared to, we have not even started scratching the surface for tourism. So,
okay. So what do we need to scratch the surface for tourism?
Oh yes, for government more involvement. For instance, the pandemic affected both aviation and tourism. But thanks, we have two different ministers, so I can't put it all on the Minister of Aviation. But aviation did their bit. They got a bailout. Some things were put in place, and the NTA DG in his statement said more AOC license will be granted to airlines in 2022. So aviation is doing a lot to make sure that what we saw in 2021, 2022 will be much better. In aviation, 2022 is already looking very promising. With all the things I have, you mentioned the fact that they're also working on having an MRO. We've never had that before. I think just aero and if you like, and it's not enough. So you can imagine, and you talked about high fares, which is one of the challenge. So if the government this year, as they have said, licensing more airlines, the MRO being set up, where maintenance can be done locally, airlines don't have to travel. So, you know, the money they will have to save on that, it will eventually dovetail into the fares coming down. And of course, licensing more will bring about competition. Where you have just two airlines going to a particular route and you're having like 6 or 10 of them going, the fares are going to drop definitely, and it's going to be able to take care of the rush. So,
okay, do we have the infrastructure to really take care of this?
Oh, that's the infrastructure for aviation. That's part of why I said aviation is actually ready. They are doing a lot to make sure 2022 is very good and promising. We all know what's happening to all the airports in Nigeria. They're either being upgraded or brand new ones are being done. Then, of course, the concession of airports. We all know, like the popular saying, government has no business in business.
Okay. Now on the concession of 4 airports, right?
Yes.
What would that do to the economy?
Oh, yes, because now they're going to get private people, definitely, and it's going to be purely 100% business for those people. Number one, infrastructure at the airport will be improved on. I mean, it will be upgraded. A lot of things will be upgraded. A lot of things will come into play. Like, for instance, the airport as it is being managed by government, hypothetically, has 10 counters. By the time a private person comes in and he sees that 10 counters will not work, he's not going to cut it, because the private people are also, they have the funds to invest. Okay. So they are willing to invest. They come in and invest and increase the infrastructure at the airport. From the counters to everything, the infrastructures will be improved upon. And once these infrastructures are there, it actually gives opportunity for airlines to come in.
Okay.
Because
Thank you very much, Susan Apuriarie, CEO Topaz Travels and Towers.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, bullish sentiments at the week and propelled Nigeria's stock market to its first strong traded week of 2022 as total turnover hit 2.027 billion shares worth 59.014 billion naira in 15,750 deals traded by investors. Poplan Dakok has more on the week ended.
The equities market opened for 4 trading days last week, as Monday, the 3rd of January 2022, was a public holiday. The NGX All Share Index appreciated by 2.66% to close the week at 43,854.42, with market capitalization rising to 23.628 trillion naira. 2.027 billion shares worth 59 billion naira in 15,750 deals exchanged hands by investors. All indices finished higher with the exception of the NGX Premium, NGX Insurance, NGX Afri-Div Yield, NGX Merry Growth, NGX Consumer Goods, and NGX Lotus 2 indices, which depreciated, while the NGX ASEM and NGX Sovereign Bond indices closed flat. Boa Foods, Wema Bank, and Transnational Corporation of Nigeria recorded the highest volume of trade. They accounted for 1.349 billion shares worth 51.2 billion naira in 1,120 deals. The consumer goods industry, when measured by volume, led the activity chart with 1.2 billion shares valued at 51.9 billion naira traded in 2,581 deals. The financial services industry followed with 537.9 million shares, while the third place was occupied by the ICT industry. 40 equities appreciated in price in the week. 31 equities depreciated in price, while 84 equities remained unchanged. Meanwhile, during the week, the Nigerian Exchange Limited NGX made more listings of stocks to be traded on the floor of the exchange. Major among them is Boa Foods PLC.
And the Nigerian equities continue to advance Monday, logging marginal gains to see the all-share index climb to 43,897.13 points, 311 million shares value at 8.642 billion naira were traded in 5,159 deals. Equity capitalization also rose to 23.65 trillion naira. Boa Food continued to dominate activities in volume and value and was trailed by distant Transcorp and Zenith Bank. Now, European markets choppy as investors await more U.S. inflation data, just as South Korean shares tumble in a mixed session across the Asia-Pacific. Ineka Oko has the details.
Hello and welcome to the Global Markets Review. Global markets have a busy week ahead with the latest U.S. inflation data as a key data point this week. Markets will also be keeping an eye on security talks between U.S. and Russian diplomats in Geneva that are aimed at de-escalating tensions over Ukraine. In Asia, markets traded mixed with Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index rising 1.08% to close at 23,746.54. The Shanghai Composite was also up by 0.39% at 3,593.52, while there were no markets in Japan due to a public holiday. European stocks were unsteady in early trading as global markets await key U.S. inflation data this week. Germany's DAX and London's FTSE were both down at 0.08%, while France's CAC 40 dropped 0.21%. In the U.S., stock futures notched higher after a rocket start to 2022 for equity markets as interest rates rise. Futures tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 19 points, S&P 500 gained 0.1%, and Nasdaq Composite added 0.07%. And here in Africa, stocks rose marginally, with South Africa leading gains at 0.48% to 67,574.44, while Kenya traded below the flat line. And that's Global Market Review. I'm Neka Oko.
Oh, thank you, Neka. That's it. This is where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations, and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. Business Express returns Tuesday by 9:30 a.m. I am Musa Abubakar saying stay safe.